What if I told you a prophet who could hear God clearly almost died because of his own greed? What if I told you the first voice that tried to save him wasn't an angel, it was his donkey? He was hired by a king to curse Israel. Gold was waiting, honor was promised, power was within reach, but when he opened his mouth to curse, God forced him to bless. This is the shocking story of Balaam, the prophet who tried to fight God and lost. Inspired by Book of Numbers 22 to 24. The desert wind moved slowly across the plains of Moab. Across the valley, thousands of small fires burned in the night. The people of Israel were resting. They had survived slavery in Egypt. They had crossed the Red Sea. They had buried a generation in the wilderness, and now they were close to the Promised Land, close enough to taste and enjoy it. But from the walls of Moab, a king stood watching those fires with fear in his eyes. King Balak had heard the stories, their victories. Nations had fallen before Israel. Kings had been defeated. Armies had disappeared. And one truth troubled him more than their numbers. Their God fought for them and is with them. Balak knew he could not win by strength alone, so he decided to fight them another way. Ha 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 ha. He would hire a prophet. Not just any prophet. There was a man named Balaam, famous across the region. When Balaam blessed, people prospered. When Balaam cursed, people trembled. Kings respected him, armies feared him, and Balaam knew it. One evening, as the sun faded into red across the horizon, messengers arrived at Balaam's home in Pethor. They carried silver, fine robes, and a message sealed with royal authority. Come, the message said, curse this people for me, for they are too mighty. If you curse them, I will defeat them. Balaam read the message slowly. He felt the weight of the silver in his hands. He imagined the honor, the reward, the recognition, but he answered carefully. Stay here tonight, he said. I will ask the Lord what I should do. That night, God spoke to him clearly. You will not go with them. You shall not curse the people, for they are blessed. The answer was direct and simple. No confusion, no condition. Morning came. Balaam returned to the messengers. The Lord has refused to let me go with you. They left. But Balaam stood there long after they disappeared over the hill, because even when God says no, desire can still whisper yes. Days passed, then more messengers came. This time they were princes, not servants, men of rank and power. Their clothes were richer, their gifts were greater. Balak had raised the offer. Do not let anything hinder you from coming to me, they said. I will honor you greatly. Whatever you say, I will do. The air felt heavier this time. Balaam spoke again with careful words. Even if Balak gave me his house full of silver and gold, I could not go beyond the word of the Lord my God. It sounded holy, but then he added something he did not need to say. Stay here tonight also. Why ask again if God had already spoken? Because part of him hoped the answer would change. That night, God allowed him to go, but with a command. You may go with them, but you shall speak only the word that I tell you. Permission is not the same as approval. Early in the morning, Balaam saddled his donkey and set out with the princes of Moab. The road was narrow, winding between vineyards and stone walls. The sun climbed higher. Dust rose beneath their feet. Then suddenly, the donkey stopped. Balaam struck her. The donkey turned off the path into a field. He struck her again. They came to a narrow place between two walls. The donkey pressed against the wall, crushing Balaam's foot. He cried out in anger and struck her harder. Then the path became so tight there was no room to turn left or right, and the donkey lay down. Balaam's anger burned. He beat the animal with his staff, blinded by rage. Then something impossible happened. The donkey spoke. What have I done to you that you have struck me these 3 times? Balaam answered her as if nothing were strange. Because you have made a fool of me. If I had a sword in my hand, I would kill you. The donkey replied, Am I not your donkey on which you have ridden all your life? Have I ever treated you this way before? And he said, "No." Then the Lord opened Balaam's eyes, and he saw what the donkey had seen. An angel of the Lord stood in the road, a drawn sword in his hand. The angel spoke with authority, "Your way is perverse before me." The donkey saw me and turned aside. If she had not turned aside, I would have killed you and spared her. The prophet who claimed to see visions had been blind. The animal had seen what he could not. Balaam bowed low. "I have sinned," he said. "If it displeases you, I will turn back." But the angel answered, "Go with the men. Only speak the word that I tell you." So Balaam continued on. When he arrived, King Balak came out to meet him. "Did I not send urgently to you?" Balak asked. "Why did you not come? Am I not able to honor you?" Balaam answered carefully, "I have come to you, but I cannot say anything. The word that God puts in my mouth, that I must speak." They went to a high place overlooking the camp of Israel. From there, the tent stretched across the valley like a living sea. Balak ordered 7 altars to be built. 7 bulls and 7 rams were offered. Smoke rose into the sky. Balak waited for the curse. Balaam opened his mouth, but instead of darkness, blessing poured out. "How can I curse whom God has not cursed? How can I denounce whom the Lord has not denounced?" Balak's face hardened. "What have you done to me? I took you to curse my enemies, and you have blessed them." Balaam replied calmly, "Must I not speak what the Lord puts in my mouth?" Balak tried again. He took Balaam to another mountain. More altars, more sacrifices, more waiting. Again, Balaam looked over Israel's camp. "The Lord their God is with them," he declared. "There is no enchantment against Jacob, no divination against Israel." Again, a blessing. Balak's anger flared. Neither curse them at all, nor bless them at all. But Balaam could not stop the words. A third time they climbed to a higher peak. The wind was stronger there, the view wider. Balaam looked out over the tribes arranged in order, peaceful and strong. The Spirit of God came upon him. He lifted his voice. "How beautiful are your tents, O Jacob, your dwelling places, O Israel." Then his voice shifted, deeper, almost distant. "I see him, but not now. I behold him, but not near. A star shall come out of Jacob, a scepter shall rise out of Israel." It was more than a blessing. It was a promise of a king. Balak's patience broke. "I called you to curse my enemies," he shouted, "but you have altogether blessed them these 3 times. Flee to your place." Balaam answered quietly, "Did I not tell your messengers that even if Balak gave me his house full of silver and gold, I could not go beyond the command of the Lord?" And so he left. But the story did not end on the mountain. Balaam could not curse Israel from the outside. So he found another way. If a nation cannot be destroyed by force, it can be weakened by temptation. He advised that Israel be drawn into idolatry and immorality, and Israel stumbled, not by swords, but by compromise. Later, when judgment came upon Moab and Midian, Balaam was found among them. The prophet who once heard the voice of God died with the enemies of God. His gift had been real, his words had been powerful, but his heart had been divided, and that is why his story still speaks. Because Balaam was not destroyed by ignorance, he was destroyed by desire. He knew what God had said, he just wished it had been different. And in the end, no amount of silver, no promise of honor, no applause from kings could protect him from the consequence of a divided heart. When God has blessed, no one can curse. But when a heart turns away, it does not need an enemy. It will undo itself. Balaam's story did not end on the mountain. It ended in strategy. He could not curse Israel. Every time he opened his mouth, God turned the curse into a blessing. So he changed tactics. If you cannot destroy God's people from the outside, corrupt them from the inside. That is the doctrine of Balaam. It is not open rebellion. It is subtle compromise. It is knowing the truth, but bending it for personal gain. Years later, in the New Testament, Jesus himself warned the church about this spirit in the book of Revelation. He spoke about those who held to the teaching of Balaam. Why would Balaam still matter generations later? Because Balaam represents a pattern, a gifted voice, a spiritual reputation, a public image of obedience, but a private love for reward. The doctrine of Balaam is when someone uses spiritual influence for personal advantage. It is when truth is spoken, but not lived, when conviction is softened to protect comfort, when holiness is traded for popularity, when leaders refuse to curse sin because they fear losing applause. Balaam knew God's will, he just kept negotiating with it. And that is where compromise begins, not in public failure, but in private conversations. It sounds like this. Maybe it's not that serious. God understands. I'll obey, but not fully. The doctrine of Balaam teaches that you can stand close to God's presence and still drift far from his heart. Israel could not be defeated by prophecy. They were weakened by seduction. Moab sent influence. Moab sent temptation. And Israel fell into idolatry and immorality. No swords were needed, just compromise. That is why this message is dangerous for the modern church. Persecution rarely destroys the church. Compromise does. When the church blends with culture instead of transforming it, when leaders pursue platforms more than purity, when believers justify sin instead of confronting it, the doctrine of Balaam is at work. It looks spiritual on the outside, but it slowly erodes strength from within. And here is the hardest truth. Balaam never stopped hearing from God. He just stopped loving obedience more than reward. That is the warning. You can have gifting without surrender, influence without integrity, revelation without transformation, but it will not last. Eventually, compromise demands payment, and the cost is always higher than the reward. The doctrine of Balaam asks one question: what are you willing to trade for approval? Money, status, followers, comfort? Because whatever you negotiate with God today will shape your destiny tomorrow. The most dangerous compromise is not loud sin. It is quiet justification, and the only protection against it is a fully surrendered heart. No negotiation, no side deals, no divided loyalty, because what God has blessed cannot be cursed, but what God has called holy must remain holy. Moral lesson from the story of Balaam. The story of Balaam teaches one powerful truth. A divided heart is more dangerous than a visible enemy. Balaam was not ignorant. He heard God clearly. He knew the truth. He even spoke powerful blessings. But his heart loved money, honor, and recognition more than obedience. And that was his downfall. 1. Knowing God's voice is not enough. It is possible to hear God and still resist him. Obedience must be complete, not selective. 2. Greed blinds spiritual vision. A donkey saw the angel before the prophet did. When desire controls the heart, even a gifted person becomes spiritually blind. 3. What God has blessed cannot be cursed. No king, no enemy, no witchcraft can reverse God's blessing, but compromise from within can weaken what attack from outside cannot destroy. 4. Compromise is more dangerous than opposition. Israel could not be defeated by curses. They were weakened by temptation. The greatest threat is often not the attack you see, but the temptation you entertain. Final moral. Do not negotiate with what God has already spoken. Delayed obedience, partial obedience, or motivated obedience is still disobedience. Guard your heart, because talent without integrity will eventually collapse.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this, smash that subscribe button and join our community. And hey, drop a comment below letting me know where you're watching from, what you think, or what you'd love to see next. Here we go, deep into the Bible and bring you an interesting story they never taught you in Sunday school. Let's get the conversation going and make this channel even better together. See you in the next video.